So what is Washington, D.C. going to do now that we know that people were tortured, including about 20 to 25% of the detainees who are innocent? We tortured innocent people, including what they're calling euphemistically rectal feeding. Now, that's the new euphemism, like enhanced interrogation was the euphemism for torture. Rectal feeding is the euphemism for anal rape, which is exactly what it is. Okay, so, well, of course, they're going to go ahead and cover for themselves. So this starts first with Dick Cheney explaining to people that it's okay, man, it worked. We got the information we needed.
The techniques that we did, in fact, use, that the president authorized, that produced results, that gave us the information we needed to be able to safeguard the nation against further attacks and to be able to track down those guilty for 9/11, did, in fact, work. Now, the Senate committee, partisan operation, no Republicans involved, no interviews of anybody involved itself.
It's all CIA documentation in here.
Chuck,
it is all CIA documentation.
If you look at it, and if you look at what the people running the agency said, and what Jose Rodriguez said, who ran the program, was a good man, that, as I said the other day, I won't use the word on your show, it may be family, it's a crock. It worked. It worked now for 13 years. We've avoided another mass casualty attack against the United States. We did capture bin Laden. We did capture an awful lot of the senior guys of al-Qaeda who were responsible for that attack on 9/11. I'd do it again in a minute.
Now, let's be clear. Dick Cheney had nothing to do with the capture of bin Laden. He had plenty of time to capture bin Laden. He didn't. Is that an accident? We don't know. And we do know that he clearly wanted to go to war with Iraq. He connected 9/11 to Iraq when there was no connection whatsoever. The fact that a boogeyman still existed somewhere in the world that caused us to want to keep fighting more wars, that wound up, if you're generous, coincidentally helping Dick Cheney's overall foreign policy objectives. But no matter how you slice it, Dick Cheney never caught bin Laden. That did not happen. And we know now through this report that, in fact, the information that we got to catch bin Laden had nothing to do with the torture. It was acquired before the torture of any of these detainees, especially the one that had the story about the courier. Okay, now, he says, well, it just generally worked anyway. We didn't have another 9/11 on our watch. Oh, congratulations, Dick. You only had one 9/11 on your watch. Okay, great. I hope you take great pride in that. Now, it's not true that there are no Republicans that support this. John McCain and Lindsey Graham support it. John McCain supports it because he was the victim of torture and knows what a heinous and immoral and terrible and counterproductive thing that it is. He says there were no interviews with the CIA agents. They went through 6 million pages of the things that CIA agents wrote. So if you had invited people like Jose Rodriguez that Dick Cheney tells you to invite, he's the guy who ran the torture program, gee, I wonder what he would have said. He would have said, oh, man, yeah, it totally worked. Yeah, it was great, man. And it wasn't torture, and it was perfectly moral. That's what he wrote in his book. Of course, he's the one who ran the program. The current director of the CIA is John Brennan. When they asked John Brennan about whether it worked, his best defense is it is unknowable. And he actually says that, like, no, you can't say it didn't work because there might be information about how it worked that we don't have. In other words, you have no proof that it worked. None. They have a mountain of evidence that it didn't work. You have no proof that it worked. Okay? All right. So, now speaking of John Brennan, Huffington Post explains that he refused to call the torture program torture. Unsurprising for a head of the CIA. Now, this is an Obama guy. Okay? Obama, who is supposed to have stopped all this, right? And now they're not doing this program, but Brennan added that he would, quote, defer to the policymakers in future times on the question of whether the CIA should ever use the so-called enhanced interrogation techniques again. In other words, there's Obama's pick to head the CIA, who currently does, saying, that's like your opinion, man, on whether you want to do torture or not. So I say we're not going to do it because Obama tells me for now we're not, right? The next president comes in, he's a Republican, he's a Democrat, he wants to do torture. Nobody ever got prosecuted. Everybody says it's not a crime. And, well, wait. Is he right about that? What's the consensus? The consensus is there will be no further investigations. Congress will not investigate any further. The Justice Department decided they were not going to open up any cases on this, and they are not reconsidering that motion. That President Obama, who said that he will not look backward, he'll only look forward, says no prosecution, no way, no how, right? Well, is it torture or is it not? Torture is clearly a crime. Everybody knows This in fact, was in 18 different ways torture, which is a crime, but no, this is a crime that will not be punished. Hence, John Brennan is somewhat right. He says, well, it's kind of your opinion, and the next time, if we want to do it again, we'll do it again, because basically this Obama administration is saying, we're going to cover your ass for you by not prosecuting. Also, they're not releasing any of the pictures involved in the torture. Some of the tapes have already been destroyed, which is clearly a crime. There's no question that that's a crime. It's destroying evidence. But as long as the CIA destroys evidence, perfectly fine. There will be no prosecutions, right? Why don't they want you to see the pictures? Well, let me skip ahead and show you the pictures that came out of Abu Ghraib. This is the one time that we showed you pictures of some of the torture that we did. Well, when you see it, there's no longer a dispute as to whether it's torture. That's why they don't want you to see it. Now, President Obama could change that in a second. He could release all the pictures. Remember, it's supposedly partisan Democrats who released this. Well, then why don't they give us the torture pictures if they want to prove their case? Because in reality, there's no partisanship here. Washington consensus is we will let them get away with this, and if we want to do it again later, we reserve that right. So that's the tip of the iceberg. So when we raped them anally through the rectal feeding, and we did all these different heinous things, when we said that we would rape their mothers, when we said we would kill their children, when we actually shot a gun that was not loaded, but the guy thought he was going to be loaded, when we put a guy in a coffin for over 200 hours, when we didn't let a guy sleep for 7 days, when we did what they call Palestinian hangings, we hung them from their arms from the ceilings. When that one of those guys died, when we have those pictures and those videos, we're not going to show it to you. Instead, we're going to cover it all up. We're going to cover it up so you never see it, okay? So you never know the actual crimes that were committed, because then we'd have to do something about it. And we're not going to. We reserve the right to do this in the future. All right, now let's go to Ron Wyden, who is among the lone voices who are saying, hey, wait. Now, maybe we should do something about this. As you can see here, Dick Cheney was breathing fire. Ron Wyden will not be doing likewise.
Do you think there should be criminal prosecutions?
The Justice Department has been clear with respect to that there are not going to be. I hope they'll review the new facts. But
you want them to change their mind?
I want them to review the new facts. And what I intend to do with my colleagues right when we come back is I intend to introduce legislation to make it clear, for example, that if torture is used in the future, there would be a basis to prosecute.
So understand Ron Wyden was one of the good guys. He's been fighting to get this report out in the public for a long time. He thinks the torture did great damage to America. But on the one side, Dick Cheney comes and we did the right things. We protected you. We were the best. Torture's no big deal. Plus, we didn't do it, even though we kind of did. Yeah, it was awesome. America #1. Ron Wyden comes and I hope that the Justice Department kind of renews the new facts. Now, it's hard to blame the guy because he doesn't have his president's support. Who is President Obama more likely to listen to? A progressive senator from his own party or Dick Cheney? The answer is unquestionably, you can't, the facts are in. Dick Cheney, John Brennan, who supports, we're not going to call it torture. We're not going to do anything about it. Dick Cheney says don't do anything about it. We agree. We're not going to do. Ron Wyden says we should renew the facts. We're not even going to renew the new facts that have come in. The Justice Department is not going to do a damn thing about it, right? And his legislation so that we can't do it in the future. Does the president even back that? I'm not entirely sure. It's like your opinion, man. Here's more from White.
Is Director Brennan fit to serve the CIA?
Director Brennan, particularly on Thursday, said some important things and also left out some things that were important.
Well, but I go back. Director Brennan, you're comfortable with him running the CIA?
Not at this point.
You think the president should fire him?
I want to give him the chance to end this culture of denial, to deal with the misrepresentations. If he doesn't do that, we're going to have to get somebody who will.
One side breathes fire, the other side says, maybe yes, maybe no. I mean, I want to give him a chance to review things and change things, and we'll have to see. Now, when you have those two sides, if you don't know anything about the issues and you're a normal person watching that, you go, well, that guy seems very confident that he's right. That guy doesn't seem confident at all. This is how President Obama has helped the Republicans co-opt the whole town, right? Why is Ron Wyden not breathing fire like Dick Cheney did? It's because he's afraid that he would be saying, you should fire my president's CIA director. They're the same party, Democratic Party. So when Obama largely sides with Republicans and says, there will be no consequences for the torture, okay? Then Ron Wyden has to worry, oh my God, I'm in the same party. So I'm saying the president's director should be fired. I'm going to hedge. And this is what we have. Another great gift from Obama to the Republicans. By the way, another gift he gave him was John Brennan. John Brennan, who's done the drone program, which kills innocent civilians all the time, does it almost systematically because, and hear me out on that, we do signature strikes where we're just bombing people holding cell phones. We have no idea if they're the right people or not. We're hoping, we're guessing. Oftentimes we hit weddings. Why? Because there was gunfire at the weddings. That's how they celebrate. Well, we heard gunfire, we dropped a bomb, we killed 20 innocent civilians. That's John Brennan. That's the guy Obama brought in. Now he's at the CIA saying torture's not really torture and we can do it later. So this is how Obama helps them. He won't do this particular program, but he has given it legal grounds for it to be an opinion rather than something that is criminal.